we saw the importance of serving caregivers holistically and not just thinking about respite, but what are all the things that caregivers need to be supported as
Yeah.
caregivers. And so we've added a lot of different programs in those. In the 6 years that I've been here, we've more than doubled our budget, more than doubled our staff, and really have increased the offerings that we have for caregivers.
Hey, this is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, your local reverse mortgage experts. And you found the Serving Senior podcast, where we highlight those businesses and those professionals that help seniors thrive in retirement. And today we have another one of those awesome individuals, and they have a nonprofit twist on the Serving Senior podcast. We have Miss Megan Schwalm, and she is the president and the chief operating officer of Tennessee Caregiver Coalition. She's got new titles, she's got same roles, but she is awesome at serving folks that serve seniors. And we're so happy to have you here. Hey, Megan, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
So Matt is
doing.
actually Chief Executive
Oh my
Officer.
gosh, I like my title better, but okay, that's fine.
And it's actually Doctor, not Miss.
Okay, that's even better. This is starting off really, really well. Hey, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate the new title. I appreciate the information, and I appreciate you letting me know that you're a doctor. So what we'll do is we'll switch it up. You ask the questions to me since you're the educated one. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, how's your day going so far?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Well, we're so glad to have you. I was sharing with you, one of my friends, Paul Ellis, calls you his secret weapon of way he serves seniors. So glad to have you here, and hopefully after we share this, you won't be a secret weapon anymore. More people know about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so.
Well, a lot of the folks that listen, either they are seniors or maybe they serve seniors in the business world, and they all love to know like some background, who they're listening, where you're from, what you've done in the past, and how you got into. So maybe give us a little background on about Megan, where she's from, what she's done in the past, and her journey to get here to serve seniors.
Sure. So I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but lived in Iowa for a long time. I
Okay.
did all of my degrees at the University of Iowa, and stayed there and taught and worked in academia. And then moved into nonprofit work kind of as a fluke. I had
Oh
a
wow.
friend who was leaving her nonprofit and needed someone to come in as director and asked me if I would. And so ended up doing that and moved on to a different nonprofit. Both of those nonprofits focused on serving folks with disabilities.
Got it.
I have a 14-year-old who has autism and a variety of other special needs, and
Okay.
so it was a good fit. And then went into some private consulting work after that, and moved to Tennessee, and was doing private consulting work. When I moved to Tennessee, I had a really hard time finding services for my son, and in
Mm,
particular was looking for respite services.
okay.
I was a single mom at the time and really was drowning. When we were in Iowa, he had a Medicaid waiver. And so I was able to get a lot of services for him, including respite, which, every Sunday I had a respite provider come over so I could leave for 4 hours and just have a little bit of time to myself and come back rejuvenated and recharged and better able to care for him. But when I moved to Tennessee, I couldn't find those services. And so for about 9 months, I asked everyone I came in contact with, where do people get respite in this state? Every doctor I talked to, every service provider kept asking about respite. And eventually I found the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition and started getting services from them.
Mm.
And shortly thereafter, their executive director left. And within a matter of a few days, three people sent me the job posting and were like, you need to apply for this job. You care more about respite than anyone I know. And so I applied, and here I am 6 years
Wow.
later as the president and CEO of the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition. Our agency serves the lifespan, so birth to death. And so for anyone who's caring for a loved one with any sort of disability or an aging
Mm.
parent or loved one, we provide services to those caregivers to provide support. So that's kind of how I ended up here at the
Wow,
Tennessee
that's
Caregiver
awesome. So
Coalition.
first you were a client first using the
Yeah,
services. So you're if anybody can share how beneficial it is, you can tell the story. That's awesome.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, that's awesome. So that was 6 years ago. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Could you maybe share with us the journey, like what it was like when you first got involved 6 years ago, maybe some things that's changed and what the plans are
Yeah.
for the future?
Yeah, sure. So when I started 6 years ago, I followed up an executive director who had been there almost a decade and had done a lot of really wonderful things during that time. Um, and I came in with the mission, like my mission was, I want everyone in the state of Tennessee who needs respite to know where to get it, to know who we are, because it was so hard for me to find the support when I needed it. And so that was my goal, was to get the word out. Um, and so from day one, I started looking for funding to hire an outreach coordinator. But shortly after I started, the world shut down and the
Mm,
pandemic started.
yeah.
And it really changed the face of respite and the face of caregiving. You know, many people who are caregiving are caring for people who are medically fragile, which
Right.
means that during that time, they couldn't bring someone into their home to help provide services for their loved one. And so we really had to shift and think differently about what we were doing. At the time, the primary service that we were offering was respite. And, all of a sudden, respite wasn't an option for a lot of the people we were serving. And so again, I come from an academia background and am a researcher. And so immediately started researching. So looked at, studies started coming out pretty quickly, both nationally and internationally, about what caregivers needed during that time. But then we undertook some of our own research and started surveying caregivers across Tennessee, asking them what they needed. And so we started implementing lots of different programs based on the research. Some of them were incredibly successful. Some of them were not, and are
Mhm.
things I would never do again. But so it really shifted our model. We really just we saw the importance of serving caregivers holistically and not just thinking about respite, but what are all the things that caregivers need to be supported as
Yeah.
caregivers. And so we've added a lot of different programs in those. In the 6 years that I've been here, we've more than doubled our budget, more than doubled our staff, and really have increased the offerings that we have for caregivers.
Wow.
We also, during that time, went through a very intensive strategic planning process. And during that process, we surveyed hundreds of caregivers across the state. And one of the issues that really rose to the top for caregivers was that they wanted more opportunities to connect with other caregivers across the state
Wow.
and just build community, which seems so simple, right? But and it has been, right? That's simple for us to implement. We've started offering caregiver happy hours where we provide food and drinks, and caregivers meet up at a brewery and get to just connect and have time with other caregivers. We had a roller skating event recently where caregivers and the folks they were caring for came out, and so just
Wow.
more opportunities to build community and connect with other people who really get what you're going through, because caregiving is unique. And unless you've gone through it or been really close to that situation, it's hard to
Sure.
understand what caregivers are experiencing. We've also added some volunteer programs.
Okay.
We have an AmeriCorps senior program, which is a program where able-bodied, low-income seniors provide companionship to homebound seniors, and at the same
Wow.
time, they're providing respite to that caregiver. So we have that program, and those seniors, those low-income seniors, actually receive a stipend for the volunteering that they're doing. So it
Okay.
helps sort of that triad of caregiver, the caregiver, the care recipient, and the volunteer benefit from that. We also have volunteer group respite
Okay.
where bring together a group of volunteers and caregivers can drop off the person they're caring for and they'll provide respite and the caregiver can go out and do something during that time for themselves. Um, we have a caregiver helpline where folks can call in for resource and referral. We have a variety of support groups. And just a bunch of other programs. And then our main program still is our respite voucher program.
Okay.
So if you're providing care for a loved one, our program will provide respite reimbursement. So we will reimburse you for hiring a respite provider. It's consumer directed, so you can choose the provider that you want. You can set the rate that you want. So, you might have a neighbor who will come in and care for your mother with dementia or someone from your faith community. So you get to make that choice. Whereas in many other states, folks are using Medicaid waivers, and then you're forced to use an agency to provide that care. And reimbursement rates are so low that the care tends not to be really reliable. And so when you're using someone that you tend to get more reliable care that way.
That's fantastic.
The other new program that we have is our emergency respite program.
Okay.
This has been my baby. I've always said, I want my legacy at the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition to be an emergency respite program, because I know that there are times where caregivers need respite, on an emergency basis. And so this year we were able to begin offering an emergency respite voucher program where within 24 hours we can get money to folks to hire respite. The goal is eventually we will have a facility that would be staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, where if someone needs emergency respite, they could drop the person they're caring for off and get respite in that way. But for right now, we've got an emergency respite voucher program, which is really exciting. And we've, it's been used and we're getting, great feedback about that program. So we're excited about that.
That is so cool. Well, maybe could you take us back to the beginning? It sounds like there's been a lot of evolution that you brought into the program, but maybe share the beginning. Who started this? How did it get started? What was the vision at the beginning?
Sure. So in 1996, a group of folks from the Nashville area who cared about caregiving and caregivers came together and formed the Tennessee, at the time it was called the Tennessee Respite Coalition. They formed the Tennessee Respite Coalition, and it was spearheaded by Dr. Louise Barnes, who worked for the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. And she was, working for the department and just saw the way that caregivers were struggling. And so worked to bring this group of folks together to start really thinking about what can we do to support caregivers. And so they started with a pot of money from the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse to start this respite voucher program. And by 2003, so, what is that, 27 years ago, they were able to go out on their own away from the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse and start a freestanding nonprofit, the Tennessee Respite Coalition. And so the first executive director was Kelly Tipler, and she was there about a decade. And then the last director, Jennifer Abernathy, was there a decade. And then I've been here for 6 years. And so, 27 years, 3 directors. We, as a result of our last strategic planning process, changed our name from the Tennessee Respite Coalition to the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition. And again, I think that just sort of embodies this shift from just focusing on respite to really looking at caregivers more holistically and looking at their needs beyond just respite. And so that was really a big shift during my tenure here.
Got it. Now, what are those folks doing now? Are they still involved at all? Original founder?
Yeah. So Louise Barnes, the original founder, is involved still. She's since retired from the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, and was serving on our board of directors up until about a year and a half ago. Her term ended. But she still is a donor and, attends events and supports the work that we're doing. Jennifer Abernathy, the last executive director, now works for Age Well, who I'm sure you're very
Okay.
familiar
Yeah.
with doing the work that you're doing. She works there doing grant writing for them and is still very involved with the work that we do. She's a huge supporter of the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition and stays involved, through events and donating and those sorts of things.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, we
Yeah.
definitely want you to meet some good people through this. So I guess as far as what's the next evolution and what kind of people do you need to meet to kind of make that evolution happen? I think at one point you talked about more caregivers in Davidson County. I think at one point you mentioned that to me. So maybe if someone's listening to this, what would be a good person to share this recording with, a
Yeah.
good person to share the video, the type of people that you need to meet to keep doing the great things you guys are doing?
Sure. So right now we're recruiting for volunteers in Davidson County for our Senior Corps AmeriCorps program.
Okay.
So there we're looking for seniors ages 55 and over who are considered low income to
Okay.
volunteer for our program. And then we'd also be looking for care recipients' families to match them with to provide some volunteer service. Again, they provide companionship and they can do some light meal prep and light housework as well. And they can volunteer up to 40 hours a week and they receive a stipend for the time that they volunteer.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's part of what we're looking for. Another thing that we're doing that I haven't mentioned is we're doing a lot of advocacy work. So working with legislators to really create some systemic change for caregivers in Tennessee. So we're always looking to connect with elected officials and folks that are interested in policy work and across the state.
Okay.
Um, and of course, we're always looking for donors. So people that are interested in supporting the work that we're doing. We are a nonprofit, and so our work can't be done without the help of donors. Just $5 an hour, or just a $5 donation provides 1 hour of respite.
Wow.
And so that's a huge deal. $5 an hour is cheap for respite, but we can do that at on average of $5 an hour. And so no donation is too small. And we're always looking for, companies to sponsor events. We have a gala coming up in April 29th. We have the Caregivers Ball. And so we're
Wow.
looking for sponsors for that and also folks to attend. We'll have live music and dancing. It'll be at Hillwood Country Club. So we'll have
Okay.
fantastic food. So that's an exciting thing coming up as well.
That is awesome. That is so cool. And so it sounds like you're going to recognize the people that need to be recognized, but unfortunately, they don't get recognized very often, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
is awesome. Well, I've got a couple folks that I want to connect you with. We just had Joanna Faust on here, and she's with the Housing Fund. And
Oh, yeah.
so what they do is they have a program where they can actually help seniors through some generous donations pay some of their property taxes. They
Okay.
also have another program, and these are all Davidson County folks, another program where
Okay.
they can help with critical repairs on the
Uh-huh.
home if it's their client.
Yes.
So these are folks that probably could use a stipend, but they're also, most of the folks would be, possibly to be gainfully employed up in years, but can maybe use the money, but also be great
Yeah.
people too. So I could connect you with her. And then Alan Ross, he's got Better Days Ahead, and he actually wants to get involved with a gala for caregivers as his
Oh,
vision.
great.
And because he started this nonprofit because his family, I believe it was his mother, started to go downhill with Alzheimer's. And then so he created this because he learned a lot about what not to do and
Yeah.
what to see. And then so he started this and he's trying to get it rolling where he can help other people have a better experience than he did. Um,
Wonderful.
so I want to
That
get you
sounds
connected with
great.
those guys. That would be
Yeah.
well, that's fantastic. Maybe could you share, Megan, as far as if anyone's listening, where you serve, how they would get in touch with you, and maybe just another quick roundup on the exact type of people that you could help.
Yeah, sure. So we serve the entire state of Tennessee.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
anyone living in Tennessee who is a caregiver. So, and we define caregiver as caring for someone who has a diagnosis. It can be
Hmm.
any diagnosis,
Yep.
and you just have to be living in the same home.
Okay.
as the person you're caring for. And we serve the lifespan, so cradle to grave. So caring for a child with a disability, an aging parent or aging family member. If you are in need of services, you can go to our website, which is www.tncaregiver.org. You can actually apply for services on our website, or you can call our office at 615-269-8687, and we can get you set up with services there. And again, we've got, a variety of services. So if you're a caregiver and you need a break from caregiving, we can help you through our respite voucher program. We can connect you with support groups. We can connect you with some community activities to meet other caregivers. Just a variety of services. So we'd love to connect with folks who are caregiving in the community.
That's fantastic. And then you mentioned about sponsors as well for the events you put on for caregivers, right?
Yes, yes. And so they could reach out to the same phone number, the 615-269-8687. Or they could reach out to my email, which is megan.schwalm@tncaregiver.org.
Fantastic. That's great. And before we run, maybe could you give an example or two of maybe somebody that you met where things weren't going well, you got involved and you were able to see a big change in their situation?
Yeah, sure. I can think of many people. We had a caregiver whose husband was suffering from dementia and some other health issues, and she called us up pretty desperate that she was just feeling really overwhelmed and was feeling like she wasn't going to be able to keep him in the home and continue caregiving for him, and was at the time actually considering a nursing home placement for him. And we were able to help her get a respite voucher and help her identify someone to care for her husband so she could get some regular breaks. And then we were able to get her enrolled in our senior volunteer program where, she was able to have a volunteer come into the home pretty regularly and sit with him and provide him some companionship and her a break. And he was able to stay in the home. He didn't go into a nursing home and was actually able to stay in the home until his death. And she was just so grateful for services and grateful for being able to, keep him in the home,
Wow.
which is the goal, right? Is to keep people aging in place. And so we're happy to be able to help keep families together.
That's awesome. That's a great story. It's kind of one of those things that we all know that there's an ending, right? We know
Yes,
unfortunately there's an ending date. The question is what kind of quality can we give the patient between now and the
absolutely.
ending date, right? And it's going to make everyone that stays here after they're gone that much happier to know, hey, he did it the way he wanted to do it, and we were able to keep him
Yes,
home, and that's awesome that you guys are able to play a role in that.
yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's awesome. And then that's where, if the vouchers run out and the different things, that's where we can always come in because a lot, especially on the senior side, if
Hmm.
they're in a great equity position in their home, we could show them how they could just use a little bit of that equity to pay for care. We always say you could use your house to
Yeah.
stay in the house. Uh, and
Yes.
it kind of makes sense. And they still own their house. They could sell it whenever anything happens. They could pass it on to the kids. Just gives them the ability to get a little bit of that money and not have a huge monthly payment hanging over their head.
Yep. Yep.
It
Absolutely.
works out good. Well, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, or anybody that you want to reach out to here before we shut down?
I don't think so. I think you covered it all.
Well, thank you for sharing and thank you for doing what you do. Like I said, I've heard your name several times as a secret weapon. So our goal today is to get your message out and spread it so that way you're not a secret anymore.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Matt. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for being here and thank you for all that you do. And thank you for watching the Serving Senior podcast, where we highlight these awesome folks like Megan that serve seniors as well as people from all ages at such a high level. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next episode and have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Hey, this is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, home of retirement mortgage solutions. And we really do appreciate you checking out the Serving Seniors podcast today. Now, please go to the description down in the body of the podcast where you can subscribe to get future shows. Please click that notification button so you get notified when other shows drop. And also, if you can go to servingseniorspodcast.com, and we'd love to hear a comment about our show. We have a heart to serve seniors, and we have a heart to make sure seniors don't just survive retirement, don't just get by in retirement. We want to show seniors how to thrive in retirement. So if you know of anyone that's 55 and older that could use some extra cash flow, maybe the retirement's not going the way that they like, our retirement mortgage solutions are designed for folks, depending on the state, that either 55 or 62 and older, to make sure that they have that kind of retirement that they want. As long as they own a home and they're in a good equity position, there could be some solutions that they may not have thought about, or maybe they've thought of and they just didn't know how they work. That's what we do. So anyone in that age group that could use some mortgage advice, my team and I would love to be able to help them. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a great day.